Why do you now tell herders to go back to their states of origin?
Is that what the bill says?
Excuse me. Excuse me. That's what it says. Now read. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Read the portion. Read the portion that says.
The bill proposes that ranches be established in the pastoralist state of origin, without forcing it upon other states or communities that do not have pastoralists as citizens.
Okay.
This is what it's saying.
Noted.
Now, please, my friend Zam, understand that this is not in consonance with our constitution. Your bill is good. I like this bill, but this aspect should be removed. We should remove it, or we should. I advise him, he's my friend. I said it's nice for him to step it down. I advise my friend Senator Zam to step this bill down for more consultation, for better, drafting, so that it will go in consonance with our constitution. But leaving it the way it is now, look, Mr. President, I'll tell you some of these Fulanis. If you ask them where is their sort of religion, they even forgot. They look at themselves as Nigerians. We should address the issue to reflect wherever someone is his place, and he can do his business there. So, Mr. President, I advise that this bill should be stepped down for further consultations. Here,
I will.
Brought this bill. Senator Sam is a very eloquent speaker and someone I admire so much. But you cannot be perfect in everything. Obviously, there's a snag in this bill. There's a problem in this bill. And because you really cannot stop anyone, any Nigerian, from living in any area that he so wishes. The relevant section of the Constitution has been read. I saw something just a few days ago. Senator Natasha paid a visit to a Fulani settlement in our senatorial zone. Those people do not have any home except that place. They've been there for so long. They've been part and parcel of that society. Now to tell them to move to their state of origin. Where is their state of origin? Where is their state of origin? Now, for us as political leaders, the political class, I would like you to look at that. Who is the current senator of FCT? She is a Yoruba native. She's a Yoruba person, but she has won election here in FCT. Nobody told her to go back to her state. I, for one, I won my election in Tarauni constituency, my first election to come to the National Assembly in 1999, from Kano Central, but I'm from Kano North. Nobody told me to go back to Kano North. So,
for drawing our attention to a very critical part of our national life that is leading to a disintegration of our lives through the incessant herder-farmer clash, destruction of plants and all that by those. And indeed, that has also led to the invasion of Nigeria by those who call themselves herders but are not Nigerian citizens. I recall, as a member of this Senate, that this bill, at a particular time, was also introduced on the floor of this Senate by Senator Kwankwaso. I recall also the problem that was following the debate, and that problem is what we will need to tackle if we have to get to the nitty-gritty of this bill. While I agree that now is the time for us to stop open grazing, it also means that this is also the time for us to take another look at the law that makes land to be in the hands of states. Because there's no way you are going to be able to establish a ranch in a state if the state government says that they don't want it. I'm glad that Senator Zam has said that those who are sedentary, not in states of origin of the headers, should be able to establish ranches. And of course, he has also given us the costing. But in order to do this, we must go back and look at the law. Because if we don't deal with that law, merely asking people to go, if they want to establish ranch, to now go and talk with those. No one owns land. It's the state governments that own land. That means that even if you agree with the owners or settlers or a community or that, if the state government does not give its consent, then it means that you will not be able to go forward with it. So as we consider this, I also want us to look at the Land Use Act as an impediment to this particular very wonderful bill to ensure that we can get and put to rest this matter of header farmer clash. And I can see why. And I want to also recall to all my colleagues that at a particular time, the former governor of Kano State, Ganduje, suggested to everyone that he has enough land in Kano State for all the headers in Nigeria to come and graze. But of course, what happened is that some people are using these headers and all that to destabilize this country. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at home in my own local government in Obingwa, far down in the southern part of Nigeria in Abia State. Some women came to me and said that the herders were bringing their cows to finish up all their planted, and that there's nothing they can do. That even when they come there, they will threaten them that they are going to kill and maim, and there's nothing they can do about it. They wanted for me to do something about it. So I had to go to the local government chairman and said, let's go and see the DPO and let us, and they had to go to plead with those headers. That is the extent to which this has reached. Everyone in Nigeria, if you go from the west to the coast, all the way up to the middle belt and you go up to the north, farmers are under threat. And what it has led to is the food crisis that we have today. So I support this bill, and I say, as we consider it, let us also look at all the elements that will make us bring out a bill that will be for the interests of Nigeria.
I will appreciate my colleagues just noting that the issues was discussed just a few weeks ago, and today it has reached the second reading. I think we must be commended. This issue, I believe, if we handle it with all the seriousness that is deserved, we will begin to see respite in the farmers-herders clashes. But, distinguished Senate President, please, we should expand the role of the Commission, not only at establishing ranches. There is need for extension services. There is need for bringing better breeds of cattle. An average cattle of a pastoral Fulani man gives you less than 1 liter of milk a day, as against 30 liters of the hybrid cattle. And this must be taken into consideration if we are going to make it a source of livelihood. Because as it is today, it's just a way of life, not necessarily livelihood for these people. So this is highly commendable, sir. And we need to emphasize, what are the conditions that will give private ranching also the help they needed to go ahead. As you know, everybody is trying to run away from government-funded companies because they are not always being very well managed. We need to consider a way and manner for which private ranchers will be accessed to this commission, and they will get the necessary help for them to expand and establish ranches. Thank you very much, the Senate President. This is a wonderful
deal at this time. Mr. President, you know, about 2 weeks ago, you handled something similar to this in a motion, where we call for a national summit. We all know that this is a national problem. It is not just a state problem. It's a problem that is ravaging all over our nation. And we cannot just sit down as responsible parliamentarians without finding a solution to it. Thank you for your able leadership, sir. First of all, in the north, we used to have a cattle route with open grazing those days. Those cattle routes, they have been taken over by communities. And now, no cattle routes. The cattle, they are all over the place. You will even see them on Abuja Street. You see them all over the place. They enter people's land, farmland and causing problems all over the country. This bill must be allowed to have its place. We are going to consider this bill appropriately. It's not, all states must be ready to have cattle ranch. You know, the last government, they set up something that they called Rugard. And they gave, some states said they wouldn't go with it. And they rejected it. But when this bill is passed into law, by the time we are doing the public hearing, sir, we are going to invite stakeholders all over the country to ensure that we treat this issue as a national problem. So that's all these killings going on all over the place in the name of cattle ranching, in the name of kidnapping. We are going to find a solution to it. We cannot continue like this. This is a responsible government. This government has started well. Previous government, they've not been able to find solution to it. I believe the leadership of National Assembly, headed by you, and the leadership of this country, headed by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will find a solution to this problem. We are going to start with this bill.
That before we can go into the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, that we must have a public hearing. We must bring in all the stakeholders, the Farmers Association, the Mitiala, and then we must bring in the state governments and all the stakeholders so that everybody will have a say. And we must have a holistic discussion on this. And then also, like Senator the Civil Senator Baribe pointed out, if they need to tinker with the Constitution in terms of the Land Use Act, which is in the Constitution, to enable us create a clause that will allow easy access to land for ranching, we should do so. And then we should also know that many people may not have money to go into ranching. And it's something that we should do gradually. But whatever it is, when we go into the major issue of discussing it at the public hearing, we'll get more information and get stakeholders' opinions. Distinguished Senator Goje.
National issue. And this bill happens to come from a senator from Benue State. Benue State is one of the states that we had series of clashes and hostilities regarding the farmers' herders issue. But I want to urge our colleagues and Nigerians generally to approach this issue of cattle ranching in good faith. It should not be seen as an issue that's going to be thrown away to some particular states because the Fulanis happen to come from those states. Because in the debate, the submission of the promoter of this bill, he said that the ranches can only be made from the states where the owners of the cows come from. I know what he's trying to do. We can't do it that way. Well, these Fulanis are Nigerians. They don't even benefit anything from government. They don't enjoy schools. They don't enjoy hospitals. They don't enjoy any roads. All the housing programs done by government, and they don't enjoy them, nothing. So to just throw them away like that because they happen to come from they are assumed to have come from states that may not have even enough water, enough grazing area. And you say you can only be done in that state. I think it's not going to work. If we want to solve this problem, which is a national issue, we should approach it with open mind. Where you have enough land, where you have land that can serve as cattle ranch, with water and enough grasses and other food for the animals, we should be magnanimous enough and realistic enough to encourage and in fact support the establishment of ranches in those areas. But to confine them to one area it will not solve the problem. So what I said, we must approach this matter in good faith. But to say, because I know if you say that you only want to do it in areas, maybe there are very few states in Nigeria that will be willing, that Fulani can claim to have come. But they are Nigerians. So, of course, if you go to Oyo State or even Ogun State or even Abia, you get Fulanis who speak Igbos, Fulani who speak Yorubas, who don't do anywhere outside those areas. What do you tell them? Because they are not indigenous to that place, they don't deserve any rights in that place? No, I disagree. So please, my colleagues and Nigerians, if we want to solve this problem, we should solve it frontally. Secondly, some weeks ago, we discussed this issue, a similar issue like this, and we even set up an ad hoc committee to come up with recommendations on the establishment of grazing areas. I think this being the case, we need to take a position, either to harmonize these two issues so that we don't have to continue discussing. Let's do it once and for all. The ad hoc committee and this issue we are discussing, I believe, in my opinion, should be harmonized so that we solve this problem once and for all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Actually, law, it has to apply nationally. For instance, if you go between Umaya and Enugu on that route, you will see a large population of pastoralists. They have a place there where people come to buy cows and all that. The meat is needed by the whole country. So establishing ranches cannot be limited to a section as if they are the ones that eat the meat alone. If we are trying to solve a problem, we must look at it holistically, and the whole country must be involved. That is where we come in terms of lawmaking, so that we make it almost mandatory for every state to have one. So we can do that when it is time for us to look at the nitty-gritty, so that it's not something you push to a particular area, because everybody needs this meat. Senator Kawu?
Mr. President.